Here we go.
Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. This is video 2 of 2. And yes, I've got a hat on. I've got a Santa hat on because do you know why? Because I'm telling you what. I'm not dipping my toes in Christmas, baby. I'm balls deep in Christmas. And anyway, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes as we talk about something. If you've been watching the Liam Payne situation unfold and you've got into watching the likes of Brian Harvey, XE17, you will know that there is something that Brian's not happy about because they fucking hounded him and hounded him and hounded him trying to get him involved, and that was being part of this boy bands forever, which is kind of a look back over the boy bands as they were when we was growing up, and the stories about them, and you know, and it's like what Brian Harvey said. Brian Harvey said, I don't want to be part of it because it's not going to be fucking accurate. It's not going to be truthful. The real things that need to be spoken about are not going to be spoken about. And what I find very interesting is Brian Harvey done a video, I think it was a live, and in this video, he had played it was a telephone call that he had recorded that was from a producer or something that was involved in this and trying to get him involved in doing this, right? And part of that call was Brian Harvey saying, look, I don't want to do it. And I don't want to do it because of a specific, this wasn't the only thing, but he mentioned something very specific. And if you've been listening to Brian Harvey, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He is talking specifically about an event that happened to one of the other band members. And if you are someone who has also recently watched the likes of Baby Reindeer, for instance, there is an accusation that Gad makes about someone who is high up, well known in media, and again, this going down the same route as this, and we've seen it over and over and over again. We're seeing the same situation with the Harrods boss, ex-Harrods boss. In the aftermath of his death, it turns out that he was a predator, and not only that, but high-powered law enforcement and people knew about it, and it was swept under the rug, and it cost people their lives. So Brian Harvey is in this phone call, he was talking about something very specific and saying things like this won't be discussed, it won't be talked about. And for that reason, this is nothing more than shite. It's bollocks. It's a watered down for TV situation. But what I found also very interesting was the timing of this. Now, there was an article over on Sky News, I can't remember who it was, but it basically said about the timing of this couldn't be better. Couldn't be better because of Liam Payne's death. And I thought to myself, do you know what? That's the point here, isn't it? That's the point. With respect of what happened to Liam Payne, there's an element of timing here. Like we see Liam Payne's ex-partner, for instance, releasing a book. How much better do you think that book is going to do off the back end of now what has happened to Liam, and the fact that this book is now being spoken about, and the things that are being spoken about, being written about inside this book, and the fact that it is clearly a book that is about a relationship with Liam. However you want to hide it and put it under the rug. I've spoken about it multiple times. I've shown it multiple times. It's even got a fucking picture on the front cover of that book that would seemingly suggest that that's Liam. But that book is now going to do far, far better. And it's like this. And I spoke in video 1 today, and if you didn't watch video 1, you need to go and watch it, because I speak specifically about timing and whether this wasn't necessarily about Liam Payne dying, but was it about putting enough pressure on Liam Payne and facilitating things that we know have a catastrophic effect on Liam, to see what they could do with him, to manipulate him to do certain things, to be in a certain position, so the limelight can go on that, and it can help to promote these sort of things. But let's look at it. So this is Louis Theroux and his company thing. It's a kind of a nostalgic look back at the boy bands. Boy Band Forever is a smartly packaged, very smart in the sense that it will hide certain things that should be being talked about, should be being dealt with, and people being held accountable. But it's not. It's about selling a nostalgic look back into boy bands while trying to make it look like they're touching on things that should be looked at and discussed when not actually doing so. That's my opinion. Stuffed to the gills with brilliantly naff clips and featuring some amusing interviews. Based solely on its title, Boy Bands Forever sounds like it's going to be another of those space-filling countdown clip shows featuring micro-celebrity contributors so obscure even their families probably don't recognize them in the street. Actually, it's something much more worthwhile. An engaging three-part look at the rise and almost inevitable fall of the manufactured pop groups that dominated the British and European pop charts, either for a few years or about 10 minutes in the 90s and 2000s. Most of them eventually imploded into an acrid haze of bitterness, jealousy, and recriminations. There's nothing really new here. This is well-trodden territory, but it's smartly packaged nostalgia stuffed to the gills with brilliantly naff clips and featuring some amusing interviews. The first and best of the two back-to-back episodes, if you can get BBC iPlayer, all three will be streaming from Saturday, focuses on the biggest British boy band rivalry of the 90s. It's funny how they talk about BBC, and I use Ground News because it talks about bias, but it looks at the bias distribution of these of this, and it's 100% right wing bias connected to this. Gotta love that, haven't you? There's nothing really new here, well-trodden territory. So it says it's the latter former leader singer, and it talks about Brian Harvey. Brian Harvey who kicks the story off. So let's to put this into perspective. Brian Harvey didn't want to be part of this. Louis Theroux sent Brian Harvey a check almost as a I think he did it to piss him off. They'd approached Brian Harvey. Brian Harvey had said, "Look, I don't want to be part of it. No, I don't want to be part of it," because Louis Theroux himself on a fucking Christmas, he was on some podcast or some interview where he was talking about the night before he'd, watched this, he listened to Stay Another Day, and he had basically said this song had come on, and he called him evil. He said the song was evil, and he said that the band was evil. And then he approaches him now to say, "Oh, Brian, hello, mate. Do you want to do this show and come on air and have a chat and a discussion?" To which Brian respectfully declines multiple times. And then he then gets put in the show against his will and then sent a fucking check for like 200 odd quid. Is he taking the piss? Thankfully, Brian Harvey rips the check up and throws it on the floor and is like, bollocks. Do you know what I mean? But so they're using him now to open the thing off. We see him in a fuzzy mobile phone video from 2015, standing in an alleyway and ranting about how he's had 15 years of persecution from police, the Crown Prosecution Service, and courts before smashing a frame containing his gold and platinum records to bits. Harvey didn't take part in the program, but his former bandmates John Hendry, Terry Colwell, and Tony Mortimer, who wrote the songs, including their Christmas #1 Stay Another Day, which was actually about, there we go, all president. There's something oddly touching about seeing these one-time teen idols again in their 50s. They could be any bloke watching the football on TV down the pub back in the day. However, they looked, as one music journo puts it out there, like the kids that might beat you up at the back of your house. That was the idea. E17 were brought together by the late Swangali-like manager Tom Watkins as an edgier alternative to Take That, who had themselves been assembled by Nigel Martin Smith as a British answer to the American swagger of New Kids on the Block. The Ages Andy Peters says that whenever New Kids appeared on his children's show Alive and Kicking, they looked miserable. They were too cool for school. He adds young fans in the studio weren't allowed to look them in the eye, never mind ask for autographs. Take That were definitely never too cool to school. At the start, swagger was something markedly lacking. There's a priceless clip here of the 15-year-old Gary Barlow performing a song he'd written himself, Let's Pray for Christmas, on a TV competition hosted by Philip Schofield. They find a lasting festive song. Barlow about as cool as a flame and plum pudding in his shirt, tie, and V-neck sweater combo. Looks crestfallen when he fails to win. Gary was 15 going on 50, says Martin Smith. So, look, it is talking about it. And, now Robbie Williams off the back end of this, not off the back end of this, Robbie Williams done his own discussions about, you know, how things were. And I've heard stories, do you know what I mean? I myself in my own life have been had music on the peripheral. My father, he was in a band, he released music. He weren't fucking famous, but they released music. They were involved in certain things. I also have friends who were connected to a group that was originally called Fix 8 that would go on to be again a massive, massive group that you would know. I'm not going to say who they are, but he was part of that group. And because his family had money and had wealth and couldn't be manipulated, he actually got put out of the band, managed out of the band. That would appear that that was the same with Robbie Williams. At one point, they had threatened to get rid of him if he didn't toe the line, and they'd just put some other dark-haired lad in there and call him Robbie. Fucking bad, mate. You know, I spent 5 years in a relationship with a girl whose grandfather, again, was a songwriter for a huge, huge group from years ago. And the stories that would come off the back end of that, there is a horrendous, horrendous place to be. This industry, you know, that goes on to say how E17 members were given about £100 a week, while their bosses are taking the money and buying fucking houses and holiday homes and cars and jets, while these who are out on the peripheral are getting used like fucking puppets, used and abused both physically and mentally because they've trapped them in this system. And it's horrendous. Horrendous. If you haven't yet been over at BHTV, Brian Harvey Television, go and listen to the guy. He talks about it and talks about the things he's seen, the things he's heard, and the things that are getting overlooked, and exactly why he wouldn't take part in this. But the timing of it, like I say, there's too many things that happen around that you just step back and say, do you know what? How fucking convenient. How convenient. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all live tonight. That's it. I'll wear my hat like Santa. Catch you then.